friends are since.
In this video, I want to share with you the experience that I've had with the DJI Osmo Action Camera, specifically in relation to making videos like this for YouTube. The camera that I'm talking about is the one that kind of looks like a GoPro. It's not the newer one from DJI, which is a kind of blocky modular system. Now, I really like action cameras, or at least I use them quite a lot on this channel, because they're useful not just if you're kicking about outside the studio, say for example making tour blog videos for your band, but also in the studio when you can't be bothered setting all your camera gear and lighting gear and all that kind of thing up. You can just pick up your action camera, move around your studio, and I find them really helpful when you just want to document things that you're doing, and they help you really focus on what you're making videos of rather than making videos, if that makes sense. At least in my experience, they do anyway. Now, for this reason, when I first started making more videos on this channel, I bought a GoPro Hero 9, and I did so because GoPro were, or still are, I guess, the biggest and most well-known manufacturer of action cameras, and I assumed they must know what they're doing after all this time. And the GoPro Hero 9 was their kind of flagship or their latest model at that point, and so that's why I picked one of them up. And to be honest, it was fine, it did the job that it needed to do. However, unfortunately, it came to a bit of a sticky end. A few months ago, I was on tour with another band and I left it on top of the car so that when we sped away into the sunset, I heard the GoPro hit over the roof and smash onto the ground somewhere on the motorway. So I had to kind of look about a replacement for the GoPro, and I didn't really want to spend a few £100s on a new GoPro, partly because it would feel like I was throwing money away, but also because I kind of feared that I might lose another GoPro in the future in some other kind of act of carelessness. So I was looking about at alternatives, and whilst there are lots of action cameras available out there, some of them are kind of cheap, crappy things that don't really work at all. You know, they're not really as advertised. However, the DJI Osmo Action Camera is one that gets quite a lot of good reviews. It's significantly cheaper than the GoPro series, but also kind of gives you a comparable kind of level of quality. And I was a wee bit skeptical about this, but I decided to take a punt, and I got one for myself. You can see here that it's got the small rig kind of case on it, which made it a wee bit more rugged, I think, and also gave me some additional mounting points for lights or, you know, microphone or whatever else. Now, I was all set to do a video talking about how much I liked this camera, because not only was the onboard microphone not bad, but the stabilization was pretty good, and generally all round it was quite intuitive and nice to use. It seemed much more stable in terms of software than the GoPro did, and there were some things about the GoPro that I found quite annoying, which this did a pretty good job of. So for the amount of money I spent on this compared to the GoPro, I was really pleased with it. However, unfortunately, I've ran into a couple issues which are, you know, have resulted in me deciding that I'll probably never buy another DJI product again. And so this is partly why I'm making this video, to let you know my experience, so that if you're looking for a similar thing, you can, you know, don't do what I did, basically. Now, obviously, action cameras are not designed to be used in this manner. At least this is not the primary intention of the designers. They're much more intended to be used by those kind of mad bastards that like to throw themselves off of the side of mountains and barrels and things like that. So if you do want to use them in a kind of studio setup, or, you know, for vlogging or whatever it might be, you need to consider whether or not your voice is going to be picked up clearly enough by the internal microphones, or whether you're able to connect up an external microphone. Now, unfortunately, most action cameras do not provide a way by default for you to connect up an external microphone. There are a few different accessories you can get for action cameras depending on the range and model that'll let you connect up an external microphone. For example, this thing with the GoPro, this is called a media mod. This particular one was for the GoPro Hero 9. It is an overpriced, cheap bit of plastic that gives you an extra external microphone, which is meant to be better than the internal one, but I'm not really sure. Gives you a couple of flimsy mounting points for your lights or whatever it might be, but also, crucially, gives you a wee insert there for a 3.5mm connection so that you can connect up an external microphone. Now, when it comes to the GoPro, I hated this thing. Not only was it expensive and felt crappy, but also when it was mounted, it was much harder to get the wee connections out whenever you wanted to change your stand or whatever. And not just that, anytime you wanted to change the battery or charge it or get access to the SD card, which by the way was frequently, because if you try and transfer things off the GoPro directly using USB-C connection, it is incredibly slow. So you have to open this thing up every time and disconnect it in order to get access to the GoPro, which drove me fucking bananas. So not a big fan of this at all. Unfortunately, I didn't lose this on the bloody motorway when I lost the GoPro. Now, with the DJI Osmo, there is no such thing as the media mod. Unlike GoPro, who have brought out their own official kind of adapter thing, DJI instead are relying on third parties who bring out a variety of these kind of weird, kind of small, plasticky connection adapter things, which the camera might focus on now. But you can see here, basically, it plugs in via USB-C into your camera. It provides a USB-C pass-through, and it also gives you the all-important 3.5mm connection. And as you can see here, it connects up to the USB-C port, which I have uncovered here, and it goes in like that, and then you get it on the side of your camera. Now, this kind of works pretty well with the small rig because it means it doesn't stick out too far. But see, if you connect this wee adapter up just to the camera without the small rig case, it sticks right out the side. It's the worst piece of kind of design I think I've ever seen, and I really don't understand how they think that this was a reasonable solution. To make it worse, there are differences or variations in the quality of these little adapters, and I've tried multiple of them, and some of them fit nice and slugly, like this one does, but some of them rattle about and don't make a proper connection, and so this is such a crap solution to the kind of problem of getting a microphone input. Now, I didn't really worry about it too much because ultimately, whatever, if it works and I've got it and it's not too bad with this case on it, then fine. And I had grand hopes and dreams that I would be able to connect up my Rode wireless mic up on here, the transmitter. I would have my wee microphone down here, and that would mean that when I was recording my videos in my studio, when I was moving the camera about to show you, say, a particularly interesting module or something, then my voice would remain the same because the microphone and the camera wouldn't be moving, you know, the proximity would remain the same, if that makes sense. However, this is where I hit the main problem with this thing, specifically that these just don't seem to work. Now, I'm sure that for some people they do work. However, with my particular DJI Osmo, when I plugged them in, you get a wee icon on the screen which shows you that an external microphone has been connected and there is a connection there. And I got the, you know, symbol on the screen and all was well. However, I got no sound, or rather I got a sound which was basically just static. A bit like this. Now, I thought perhaps I'm using the wrong kind of microphone. Perhaps I'm using the wrong kind of connection. Perhaps I should use TRRS instead of TRS. Or maybe I need to use TS. Or maybe there's a problem with this adapter thing here. Or maybe the microphone I'm using needed to be powered instead of unpowered. Or maybe the connection wasn't correct and I needed to take the case off and make sure everything was nice and tight. And I tried all of these things. I bought 3 different versions of this fucking wee stupid plastic thing, but none of them worked. Literally none of them worked. This one was the best one because it fit snugly, but none of them made any difference. So I tried out a variety of different microphones. I tried out all of the Rode microphones. I tried out lavalier microphones. I tried adapters. And as you can probably tell, I'm not short on options for microphones. Again, none of them worked. It didn't make a difference what I did. None of them produced any sound apart from the static. So the only possible thing that I think it can be is that the camera just doesn't work. There's an issue with it. Now, I contacted DJI and I explained the problem to them. And unfortunately, I've been having a back and forth with them for weeks and weeks and weeks. And every few days they'll reply and they'll ask me some other kind of bizarre troubleshooting question. There's just been a whole catalogue of things with it where the support process has not been the most enjoyable. However, the real crux of this has come in the end, where they have said that if the connection is showing up with the microphone on the screen, if the USB-C port is working, as in it can transfer data on and off, then that's it. As far as they're concerned, the camera's not to blame, and so it must be an issue with either the microphone, which, spoiler, it isn't, or it's a problem with the adapter. Now, the problem with this is that there is no official way to get microphone input other than these third-party applications or third-party adapters, which DJI themselves promote. And so you're left basically in a situation where if you do have a fault with one of these, it doesn't work. Now, this hasn't just been my experience. I've seen other people online talking about this and how they don't fit snugly. The connection works for a while and then doesn't work. But even when you do get it to work, the quality of the audio input is really low. And this is a huge disappointment, because it means that even though this is hundreds of pounds cheaper or significantly cheaper than the GoPro, I think I would still buy a GoPro rather than get one of these, because any company that just washes their hands of things which should be, things that should be a core feature of their camera just isn't worth the time. So if you're interested in an action camera for doing kind of YouTube videos and all that kind of thing, and you're looking at a second hand or maybe a new old stock DJI Osmo Action camera and thinking, well, I can plug in my microphone into it if I get that wee adapter, don't bother, because there are so many problems with it that it's not worth your time. If you've got any suggestions for a better handheld action camera that I can plug in an external microphone and I don't have to deal with all of this crap, then please let me know. I would love to try one out, because this does my head in.